I feel fine about it.
Okay.
That's why I told Marcus when you weren't here, I was like, I'm a person who's anxious by nature and needs to know all the things. I was like, this isn't going to work for this because I'm going to be so focused on ticking boxes that it's kind of like our belief of like the women's circles or whatever, whatever organically is supposed to happen happens. At some point, we probably should explain like, what is Meet Me at the Cottage and how did we get here?
Yeah. Welcome to the first episode of Meet Me at the Cottage. My name is Jenn. I am one of the co-owners of the Healing Cottage, and I am a former mental health therapist that is recovering from burnout and a little bit of disillusionment of my field and trying to, I guess, figure out a little bit more who I am. And I think this podcast is allowing for that to be the space to speak openly and freely about the things I feel and maybe have silenced myself a little bit or a lot bit.
Thank you, Jen.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Crystal Dalton. I am the co-founder and director of the Healing Cottage. I am also on a journey. I previously worked in direct service, working in different fields, being a case manager for people living with HIV and AIDS. I've provided services to victims and survivors of crime and their families. And I am also a trauma-informed yoga instructor. So my life has taken a different path over the past couple of years, following my own burnout from doing direct service, and the unexpected death of my mom led me to reassess my life and choose a new path.
Yeah.
Doing what makes me happy and living my life like I might not be here tomorrow, which is a very real experience for those of us who have suffered from traumatic loss. So here we are, folks.
Right, and taking the leap and doing something so different, right? From, I think a lot of us can relate to having traditional 9 to 5, Monday through Friday jobs, or even if it's not 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, but employment that is regular and consistent, and we know, what our paychecks are going to be, to then kind of unhinging and unhooking from that way of doing life and choosing to get on this road, which I think for a lot of folks it's really envious to watch someone do that. And sometimes we fear, like, am I going to seem crazy, or people are going to think I'm crazy because I just left this stable, secure state job, right, to do something so meaningful, right, which is still in the service of people and helping to heal, because that's the work you've always done. It just looks a little bit different now that it's in the line of yoga, but it's so different, and that is a scary journey. So what was that like for you?
Very scary. For those folks who know me well, know that I tend to be an anxious person by nature, and to keep my anxiety in check, I like to have a plan. I like to know what to expect. Have my little outline of things, and getting to what my feelings were in leaving something stable to choose a whole different path. I have to talk about grief and what that has taught me. Again, with the anxiety and expectations and how to manage them. Grief, I have learned, is something that will turn all of that on its head, and it has taught me to let go of expectations. It's not something that you can control. It will manifest itself however it wants to, whether that's emotional or physical.
Both, right?
Both of them at the same time, keeping in line with the idea that the body keeps the score. I've had moments several months after my mom has passed away where sounds or experiences have triggered something inside of me that has led to having a deep emotional reaction that has altered the course of my day completely.
Caught you off guard. And
caught me off guard, which again, I don't like to be caught off guard at all.
I think a lot of folks can relate to that, right? Not like who wants to be caught off guard with something especially that kind of, takes you off course and makes you feel really vulnerable.
Vulnerable and angry. Very angry at not having emotions or feelings. That's fine. But having something as innocuous as a simple sound thrust me back to the emergency room and having to hear my mom attached to the monitors on life support and having that little ding sound that I've heard numerous times before, since, but on this particular day, shook me to my core. It unleashed something in my body where I had a visceral reaction to it and cried for several hours, opting to honor my feelings instead of going along with the plans that I had originally had scheduled. And you might ask yourself, what does somebody do in that regard? How do you handle that? And my answer was to first be mad.
Sure.
Not again at the feelings, but at grief, at PTSD, at having something disrupt my life. And then deciding to journal about it, because that is a strategy that is helpful to me to be able to put my thoughts and my feelings down on paper. I'm an internal processor, so that's how I come to understand things. So,
and journaling is a great way to externalize those feelings, right? To release them and get them out without having to talk about it with like another person. So if you're not ready or don't want to, it's a place to get it out, but also keep it, in your space. And I think what you're talking about is, kind of, I hope for a lot of folks, very relatable experience of trauma and trauma triggers, right? And grief, of course, but that's what you're describing, is that you're just kind of bopping along in life and you hear something, you smell something, you see something that it doesn't seem initially like, why is that sending me, out like all so off kilter? Because that's how trauma works, right?
Right. Our body and our mind are protecting ourselves until we're in a space to maybe be able to handle it.
And that it comes when it feels like it, really, right? It's like that you don't have that kind of control. That is the heat kicking on in our building. That you don't have the control, right? So it just comes on, and then it just alters your whole day. And that, yes, that is. I'm saying, unfortunately, that is how it works, because your body's not feeling safe in that very moment. Something is setting it off, and our body does remember, and it's saying, oh no, is this happening again? We're not safe. Like, let's do something about this. And then your mind kind of catching up with it and helping to process.
Which I think also speaks to the notion and the idea of safety. So we've mentioned a few times now about feeling safe. And for me, luckily, I was in my home. I was able to process those feelings however I needed, speaking to friends such as Jennifer here to help me kind of understand and work through that. But for some people, their experience that they had prior to meeting somebody, their partnership, their family, maybe their family is the cause of the trauma.
Often, yeah.
May have this experience of having these emotions or this trigger happen in a space with people that don't feel safe.
Right.
So are you able to fully express yourself? Or if you're able to, let's say it is a safe person, maybe they're not understanding of whatever it is that's triggering it. Oh, your mom died 5 months ago? Why are you crying about this now? Why is that upsetting you? You were sexually assaulted when you were 5?
Right.
How is this smell triggering these tears when you're 32?
Right. And that's such a good point about, I think, generally how our society deals with anything related to the general society, right? Not the folks who get it and understand, but the general society about understanding trauma and being trauma informed or trauma sensitive. It's not just that happened so long ago, why are you so upset about it? Get over it. That never was the way. I think we are improving upon that as more research comes out and the general public understands things like how trauma does stay with you, for a long time. But the idea of get over it, why is that still upsetting to you? Like, aren't you over it yet? Is really oftentimes just as traumatizing. And then you start to self-doubt, right? Is there something wrong? Why aren't I over this?
Right.
Yet the majority of folks who have gone through something traumatizing, who haven't had an opportunity to process it in a safe way, in a healthy way, or in a supportive way, are suffering silently and wondering what's wrong with me. But it's really what's wrong is the way our culture approaches trauma, period.
True. Exactly. Or the person experiencing the trauma or the trigger may not have the words to express what they're feeling. And there's often a lot of shame attached to the feelings, either brought on by another person or by the person experiencing the trigger. Guilt for taking up space and time, and how dare I burden you with my feelings. You've got enough of your own stuff going on in your life, which I feel all of us at some point in time have been that person who doesn't want to burden the other person. I know, speaking personally between our friendship, we often both have those times of knowing that the other person is going through it, because hot tip, everybody's going through something all of the time.
Right.
It's not a comparison of my feelings aren't valid compared to yours. Your mom died, right? I'm just dealing with insert here. It's all relative. Everybody's experience is valid. It's not trying to measure what is worthy of taking up space or feelings.
Yep. And I think you make a good point, because I think a lot of people do that, right? Oh, my trauma's not as bad as yours, or my issue or thing that I'm going through isn't as bad as yours, or it could be so much worse. And just like you said, it's not a comparison. It's not a trauma competition, or I'm going through hard times competition, because we're not going to invalidate, those experiences to ourselves. It's often to ourselves, right? Because it could be so much worse. Again, general society, reinforcing that ideology, and then us interpersonally saying the same stuff. No, it always could be better. It always could be worse.
Right. And I think also rides the coattails of our culture of toxic positivity, which, used to be guilty of that. Just look on the bright side. Think positive. But when you look through things with a different lens, and you're able to see that if somebody's saying, why don't you just look on the bright side of things? It could be worse. There are people that have it worse than you. Correct. Or, your mom loved you. She lived a good life. She wouldn't want you to be sad. All of that is true. Right. You're so strong. You're resilient. Again, all of that is true. But also, why can't I be sad? Why can't I feel the feelings I'm having, whether it's in relation to grief over the loss of somebody, the grief over a relationship, over the life that you're mourning that you thought you would have had, and you don't. So what you're in essence saying is that your feelings aren't valid. Right. And I think, the idea of, again, how we tolerate grief in our society as well is the person is listening is uncomfortable. They feel, I need to fix that or soothe that or help that, or they just don't even know what they feel, but it's just awkward, right? Because we don't do, I feel like this is a commentary on what we don't do well as society, on a regular basis here. We don't do grief well, right? We don't do trauma well. We don't do grief well, because it would be this outward expression of discomfort and sadness, or maybe even joy with tears and remembering, the person or thing that you were grieving. But we just get uncomfortable, and we have that toxic positivity of just be happy, just be okay, just be healthy, or just be, any of the things.
Soothe it. Just soothe it. And as if happiness is the only sort of acceptable emotion, or at the very least, just not that. Don't do sadness in front of me. Even if it's not meant to be a selfish disposition, but just, I don't know how to soothe that. There is, and I think you can probably speak more to this, but there are no words for anybody grieving that are going to take it away. And it's not an intention of taking it away, but feeling the feelings of grief, which is complex, right? There's kind of a traditional 5 stages of grief thing, and anger is certainly one of them. But there are all of the feelings that are associated with grief, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then acceptance. None of them are, and then they're really happy, right? Those emotions are all pretty uncomfortable.
And it's not linear.
It's definitely not linear.
It's
Absolutely.
definitely not linear.
You go back and forth and go 3 steps ahead and then go right on back, because nothing in the human experience is actually linear.
And healing definitely isn't linear.
Right.
We're not problems to be solved. Speaking of grief, it's not a problem to be solved. It is something that you learn to carry. You learn to manage it.
And, since you are so close to, the like when in losing your mom and very in touch with grief and understanding it, what do you think you could suggest that was actually helpful for you? And what is continuing to be helpful to you? Because I think that people freak out and run away, and then we don't, what is actually helpful to hear from a real person? What did you and do you continue to appreciate when just grieving the life of mom, which will be your lifespan?
Correct. Thank you for asking that. And that is a question that has definitely evolved for me through my grief journey. Prior to my mom dying unexpectedly, yes, I've had other people of importance die in my life, and I've had grief. Grief isn't the same in all experiences. Whether it is your mom died and my mom died, so they're going to look the same, not true.
Right.
You can have several losses and they're going to all look different, and you're going to have that journey that's not going to be linear, and your feelings are going to be different, and they will more than likely be complicated. Mm-hmm. So prior to that, I had a different idea of what grief was and how to handle it. And yes, solve it for somebody, because by nature, I am a problem solver. I'm a helper. I want to make things better.
It was kind of part of your job.
It was part of my job in my previous life, if you will. I don't mean like reincarnation. I mean prior to making that big leap of faith, which is how we started this podcast. And here we are organically, taking this other journey, because in order to speak about taking that leap, we have to talk about what led us to that edge, if you will. Yeah. So I had a different approach to grief and didn't fully understand it until I went through it myself, and I can look through my professional life, look at it in the rearview mirror through a different lens, and know that maybe I wasn't the best approach in understanding things, and knowing that being in tune with myself, which I've been told recently that I'm very in tune with my feelings and my emotions and my body, which has been its own journey of realizing that grief really does, pardon my language here, fuck you up. Mm-hmm. It really messed with my brain in a way that I didn't fully understand prior to experiencing it.
And often, right, when you're experiencing grief, and let's say you work at a traditional job, you get what, like 3 days?
3 days of bereavement, which is super.
And hilarious.
It is hilarious. My mom wasn't even cremated.
Right.
3 days of my allotted bereavement, which fortunately I had a supervisor that was understanding, and I took whatever time that I needed, knowing that I was going to be no good to them.
Well, and really,
no good to myself.
Right, and who's dictating how
what's
long
good?
You're allowed to grieve? And again, 3 days being just hilarious.
Right.
But sorry, I digress.
Yeah. So realizing that it really does have this profound effect on all parts of your being, from how you think, how you remember things. I still have, I say, complications associated to grief brain. And having to write things down to remember, because when your brain is flooded with all those stress hormones and the chemicals, you're not thinking linearly. You don't remember anything.
Well, you kind of can't, right?
You can't. Your little mammalian brain
Mm-hmm.
is just trying to keep you alive.
Yep.
So I found that people mean well. They always do. And it's no fault of folks that are trying to be supportive. But again, as we said previously, we have a culture that doesn't really understand grief, and they don't know how to carry it because other people's emotions make us uncomfortable, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm making you feel you're sitting in my discomfort,
right?
Which is also uncomfortable for me to be worried about taking up too much of your space and crying and making you feel uncomfortable.
Right.
So I have found that through this process, what has been helpful to me is therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So that luckily I had already been in talk therapy prior to my mom dying, and I credit having those tools and that relationship, that foundation already built to be very helpful in navigating this.
Yeah.
Friends were very supportive. You, Jen, were very supportive, and having, been a psychotherapist, I think your approach was different than a lot of folks' approach who, want to do all the things, but you held space for me, validated my this fucking sucks, because it does. There's nothing that you're going to say. Nobody's ever going to say anything to make it better, nor, and I'll speak from my own perspective as a person grieving, nor do I have the expectation that you're going to have a magic sentence that's going to make it better.
Right.
I don't want you to.
And just that part alone, right, for folks who are listening, the griever does not expect you to take it away or have a magic sentence that's going to make them feel better. It's simply just sitting together with them.
And listening, that's it. Or allowing me to cry and that being okay. So that was helpful, having a safe space to cry, to process feelings, being able to talk about my mom, which I have found that people don't want to ask you about the bereaved or ask you about your person that's dead for fear of upsetting you.
Right.
Which is a conversation that I've had to have with multiple people. In letting people know, no matter what you say, I'm going to cry. You're not the cause of me crying.
Yeah.
The cause of me crying is taking my mom off of life support and watching her die in front of me. That is why I'm crying.
Or just the void.
The
right?
void
the
of that, and having to be the person to, yes, there was a group decision, but I made the final decision of when is the right time. There is no right time, and you shouldn't have to make that decision.
Right. So specifically, one of the a thing that you really enjoy and appreciate is being asked about mom, right?
Being asked about my mom, or even being not allowed, because allowed is nobody needs
Just
to give me permission.
Right? No one has to, but it feels
giving
nice.
space to talk about things or have memories, or having Christmas just pass, which was my second Christmas without my mom, which was a lot different than my
first
Christmas prior to. It looked a lot different than my Christmases, previously. But being able to do things in remembrance of my mom. I made hot chocolate in a mug that she used to make me hot chocolate in as a child, watched one of her favorite Christmas movies, Home Alone, which I have also found as a person with that anxiety and the expectations of when I am going through these firsts, these anniversaries, these difficult times, what I have found is that celebrating or honoring in a way that I choose has made it a little less difficult. Not easy, less difficult, because it's, in a way, I'm taking ownership, I'm laying claim to that and just taking that back.
And it feels like an honoring, right, and a ritual of a sort, right?
Yeah.
Like, this mug means this to me. This, watching this movie means that to me. What do you think Mom would say about you starting a podcast?
She doesn't know what a podcast is.
What if you explained it to her and then told her?
I don't know. My mom, even if she didn't understand something, because she was of an older generation, she would be supportive. And really, even if she didn't agree with something that I was doing or what have you, bottom line is she just would want me to be happy.
So she'd be a listener.
She would not be a listener because she did not have a smartphone or a computer, nor did she know how to operate any of that.
But you'd go over there and be like, Mom, listen, and then play it.
Right. So I think that she would be supportive. And I feel that she would be supportive of this journey. And if you're a person who believes in whatever it is you believe in, and I believe that we can still be in touch with our dearly departed. I have been fortunate enough to have a friend, shout out to Allie, who does have some special gifts, and she's been able to make contact with my mom several times since her passing, including the day of my mom's death, as a way for me to be able to know that she's okay. And she's fine. Wherever she is, doing whatever it is little balls of light do, wherever they are.
She's not only fine, she's proud of you.
She's very proud of me. She's still a little spitfire because she was a strong-willed woman. And Allie has even said that. Allie, who did not know my mom, has said that she is a little ball of fire. So I'm glad that she was able to feel that energy of her being
And
very
share that
strong.
with you. Yeah.
And, I am also a strong-willed person in many regards, so I know I get that from her. So I think she would just be happy for me. And really, if you're a parent, which I am not, but I think all parents just want their children to be happy and to live their best life, whatever that looks like, whether you agree with it, you don't agree with it, or even understand it. So yeah, I think that would be reaffirming to me to know that she would be okay with it. And again, having been able to make contact with her, she knows of my journey that I'm currently on in all different aspects and is supportive and happy, because life is very short. And why would you not do what makes you happy? Right? All this other stuff are just complications and ways for us to try to figure out who we are and what is our best life, which kind of leads back to the initial question of 2 hours ago. So it seems, of, taking that giant leap of faith and doing something different, which is exactly what I did following the death of my mom. Again, being a person who's anxious, who kind of talks about living outside of your comfort zone, but feels very comfortable in the comfort zone and allowing fear to hold me back. Somebody recently on a program or an event that I attended regarding grief and death called Death Over Dinner. I highly recommend you checking it out, deathoverdinner.org. Provided a space to talk to other people who are grieving, whatever that looks like, people who want it to normalize death and talking about it, our own mortality. And, in speaking of my story, one of the women that was in my little group said, fear is just your ego getting in the way and holding you back. Yeah. So, and she also mentioned like little Crystal, right? Your little kid part of you letting go. And so that's what it's been. It's been a great letting go of all of the things that I knew before and thought and subscribed to, right? We're supposed to have this stable job, work towards the pension, have this, have that, retire and do all those things. And that is great. But also, what if I don't get to live to be retired?
Mm-hmm.
All the things I'm working towards. What if I don't get to experience that? What if I do make it to retirement and I'm not able
Mm-hmm.
to do the things that I want it to do now?
Right, because you've given all of your good years to
Right.
being productive and a part of a company or an organization, whatever that productivity looked like. You spend the majority of your waking hours at a full-time job, and sometimes you see your coworkers more than you see your own family, and you give that all that time away to then only have, the last section of your life for yourself, which is just an interesting thing to look
Why
at.
shouldn't we?
Why isn't
In
it
all
yours to
intents and
begin with?
purposes, I'm a healthy, able-bodied individual. So shouldn't I be doing all the things that I'm told I should be doing in my golden years right now when I'm able to?
Right. Well, it's just interesting, that narrative in general, right? Like who set that narrative? I'm not sure that, folks from 1,000 years ago might have set that narrative.
Right, because they saw that life could end in a second because you're being eaten by a saber-toothed tiger.
Right. Right.
So today our saber-toothed tiger looks a little different. It comes in the form of a variety of things.
Mm-hmm.
So we're all just trying to do our best and live our life the way we want, which not everybody's able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I fully understand that.
And recognizing, the privilege that we do have, right? In certain scenarios that other folks, don't have, and don't have the freedom to choose, and honoring that as well, and not pretending like the privilege doesn't exist.
True. And I read recently, so there's been a lot of talk about epigenetics and how trauma can affect our DNA and all of that. And something that I read recently really resonated with me where, I've said to people that have asked or people that know me, my mom's death and how all of that happened, which there's a whole other backstory leading up to, this experience of things that I was working through. But it shook me to my core. And it turned my life upside down. And I can't explain it, which is exactly what I was reading in this book, is that people have these experiences that they can't really explain, but they're different, right? So on a cellular level, I've been altered from this traumatic experience, and it has shifted so much of my life and my approach to life and my ideologies and choosing to choose happiness and joy and being authentic, whatever that looks like, and making the choice to let go of fear, jump into the abyss, surrender to it, and instead of saying, what if it doesn't work out? Well, what if it does? Why can't I take a chance on myself?
Right.
And so that's exactly what I've done, and it's been a real interesting experience to live out of that way.
Also, we're sponsored by the Healing Cottage, right? If you haven't been to the Healing Cottage, we're right here in Middletown, and we offer a whole bunch of holistic healing services. So thanks, shout out to Healing Cottage for sponsoring Meet Me at the Cottage. This segment of Meet Me at the Cottage is sponsored by Aperture Photography. If you haven't heard about Aperture Photography, where you been? Right? No. Just kidding. Okay. Aperture Photography is our local photographer. Wait, let me just stop. Okay.
So who is?
Right. Aperture Photography.
So who is Meet Me at the Cottage?
Oh,
Shut
all right.
up, Marcus.
Can you splice these and flip them upside down?
I'm keeping all of this in.
Well, right. And we're back.
We're back,
Oh, good.
and here we are. We're trying to figure it out, folks. In case you haven't figured it out yet, we're figuring it out as we go. We have no idea what we're doing.
And this is our this is how we actually talk.
This is who we are, right? And what?
That's why we said let's start a podcast.
Let's start a podcast
Called Meet Me at the Cottage,
which is born from hey, let's open a holistic healing space that is called the Healing Cottage, all of which was born out of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, we're deep into the podcast now, and
hopefully you're still here.
Hopefully you're still hanging with us, 12 hours into the future here. But, what is Meet Me at the Cottage? What is the Healing Cottage, and who are we?
Yeah.
And that's a really good question that we're trying to figure out daily.
Right. Because as you often say, we're a work in progress, right? We are very dedicated to social justice and raising and lifting the voices of folks who are marginalized and oppressed and their experiences, and we often follow a lot of social media accounts that help us and inform and continue to inform us about the best practices and best approaches to things, and just offer diverse experiences. But we still are two white women who are learning and growing and trying to evolve and figure ourselves out, but not silencing our voices. And I think the experience that we've been going through personally, and I think collectively, as COVID was a reckoning of some kind for everyone. So whether it be a reckoning because you have lost folks, right? That's just very traumatizing and overwhelming. Whether it's a reckoning of you got to get off the hamster wheel and hit the pause button because, society stopped. I mean, the world literally stopped. That it gave you an opportunity to reflect. I mean, we had the Great Resignation come out of COVID because folks could stop on the hamster wheel.
There's another way to live.
Right, there's other ways to live. And if I do stop and actually take a minute, why am I subscribing to this? And then kind of just blowing up everything that we do unwittingly subscribe to. And then sometimes even more deeply, not even realizing the stuff we subscribe to, trying to unpack that and then realizing, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. And then how the levels of awakening that happen, right? And it's interpersonal and it's societal and it's institutional and, all of the things. And we're learning and we're growing and we're trying to figure it out, and we're trying to pass along that knowledge to, for me, my kids, my other folks that I know and meet, and the ways in which we view things and can unpack them. And one of the reasons why it was important to us to have social justice be a part of a holistic healing center, because maybe they initially sound counterintuitive, right? Like, not counterintuitive, but just how do they go together? A social justice oriented holistic healing space? Well, yes, indeed, because it is in fact folks who experience injustices that need to heal amongst, all types of folks, but healing, generational trauma, racial trauma, gender-based trauma, right? That's who we hope to serve. And if you're not someone who's had, or at least not aware of having those types of trauma, that's okay. We also want to serve you too, right?
You're still a person living in the world.
Right.
And that is traumatic in and of itself.
Right. Especially as, we just keep becoming more and more aware of why we do the things we do. And it's okay if you don't relate to that part, like you don't see yourself as a trauma survivor, or you don't think, you've had it that bad, or that you like your job and it's fine. That's great. We want to serve you too. But it is imperative and important to us that we also, like we said, amplify and connect with, and help, offer healing space and safe space for folks who have experienced, injustices and trauma, and we want folks to hopefully feel seen, heard, and understood in our space.
Or if you're just looking to try something new, like I said, I'm a yoga instructor.
Mm-hmm.
That came out of COVID. I was a practitioner for a good part of my life, on and off. And then, over the last several years became a little bit more consistent in my practice and in trying to look beyond the asanas, which are the postures, which is what so much of our Western culture focuses on and thinks that's all that yoga is.
Right, like how flexible you are, right? How many times do you hear, oh, I don't do yoga, I'm not that flexible. not actually about that.
Correct. Or having a particular mat or clothes. You don't have to have yoga clothes in order to do yoga.
Because yoga clothes were actually invented by Western folks and not the folks who invented
yoga. Correct. So out of, COVID, I had the opportunity to look into a yoga teacher training program. Again, shout out to Allie for bringing that to my attention. And since everything was being done virtually, I was able to continue to work a full-time job and do my yoga teacher training, which was also its own full-time job. So through that experience of COVID and having this opportunity to go inward and delve a little bit deeper into myself, I became a yoga instructor, and Jenn was simultaneously going through her yoga teacher training as well. And we decided to, hey, why don't we offer private yoga here in this space?
Right, because in my office, there's a waiting room and a therapy space, right? And so as I was figuring this out for myself and understanding how valuable, yoga has been as a practitioner myself, healing, for my own trauma, right? This bodily experience of movement that was really soothing to my nervous system, that I didn't understand that language at the time. But
making the mind-body-breath connection?
Yes, the mind-body, yep, exactly. And then realizing oh my gosh, this is such an enhancement to traditional psychotherapy. And this began, which is arguably my descent away from traditional talk therapy, but being this is part of the healing too. Traditional talk therapy has wonderful implications for folks, but there was just more, right, that needed. So practicing myself, going through yoga teacher training, I went through for my own experience, and then being I think I can move my counseling area around, where the smaller area will be for where the counseling is, and the waiting room, which was originally the office space, is big enough to be able to offer a combination of talk therapy and yoga, or just separate, for folks that wasn't their intention, just to come and do private yoga sessions here. And then we could use the office space to chat with them and get their needs and goals for what they wanted to see out of private yoga, which ultimately became a therapeutic yoga experience, not so much practicing yoga and saying, here's how you do these poses, right? Because I think that's what a lot of people do think about when they think about private yoga.
Or yoga in general, thinking of it as a workout. And for me, that's not my approach to it. It's more of a going inward and connecting with ourselves that way, slowing down, taking time for rest, trying to be taken care of.
Right, which is why I always say to Crystal, what you do is yoga therapy, and we know that yoga therapy is trademarked or special type of certification that they gatekeep, so that you can't just say, I'm a yoga therapist. And I understand that as a therapist. I do understand that. And what Crystal does really is yoga therapy, or what we'll say is therapeutic yoga, right? Because we're not going to say yoga therapy. But that is really what she does. And we keep thinking we're going to come up with a better name to describe what she does, because it is in the philosophies of yoga, right? It's not the Western version of yoga with handstands and hyper flexible and all that. It's the philosophy of yoga of resting and
meeting your body where it is, honoring yourself, letting go of judgment and expectation, and putting these outside societal pressures on ourselves to be a certain way or to look a certain way.
Because a lot of people think of, when they think of a typical yoga class, but even a typical yoga client, right? It's very thin, very white, very Lululemon looking person.
Which, no shade to any of that.
Right, they are there, and they there's also space for them. There's space for everybody, and even those types of yoga goers also could benefit significantly from Crystal's type of yoga as well. So it's not to vilify anybody's body style or whatever. It's just that what we think of is that's the person who does yoga. And if I have a body that doesn't look like that, or if I feel I'm quote out of shape, or I can't,
not flexible,
I'm not flexible, then I can't do
which were my
yoga.
own insecurities as a practitioner, you know, early on, having this hypervigilance of what was happening in the class and trying to be the best and look the best and have all of those feelings where I really wasn't fully present because I was so worried about how I looked
and doing the pose
and doing the poses
like
right,
quote unquote,
and
right.
looking like the person next to me and having this subconscious or conscious competition with the person near me, trying to be more flexible or get into the pose in a way that was quote unquote right. Whereas kind of have turned that all upside down as well. And my own belief in the way that the lens that I teach class is yoga is for every body. There is no right or wrong way to practice. Whether all that matters is that it feels safe and comfortable in your body. You know your body better than I do. So you know injuries, sensitivities, traumas that doing a particular pose or breathing a certain way might be triggering. So, you know, that's how I teach. Meet your body where it is. Find what feels safe and comfortable to you. The way my classes and my guidance are just suggestions. You do whatever it is you want to do. And that's okay. And that is part of what our intention was with the Healing Cottage, was to create a safe space. Whatever safe looks like to you. Maybe that's a place to fully be able to rest, to be in a place that is inclusive and everybody is welcome. But also, you know, jokingly, when people come to class or if it's a special event like my women's healing circles that are once a month where we do yoga nidra, which is a guided meditation
that I always fall asleep in,
right?
And you're not really actually supposed to,
quote unquote, supposed to. But you know, I've had several people that will say, "Oh, I hope I don't fall asleep," or "I might snore. I'm really sorry." Whereas I reframe that and say, you look at that as a bad thing. However, from my perspective, what I'm seeing if you're asleep or snoring is that you felt safe enough in this space and with me to fully allow yourself to relax. And as a person who is recovering from different traumas, I'm very hyper vigilant and it's hard for me to relax. So if you're in this space, that most often people that come to the space say it feels cozy, peaceful, inviting, has great energy, which is all that we want. It's for a space to feel like a home, like home for you. We want to build community. We want people to come together and have shared experiences or have diverse experiences, but still be able to be in the same space with the ultimate goal of rest and healing, whatever that looks like for you.
Right, which is also why we do different types of things at the cottage. Like last year, toward the end of last year, we had our first open mic night as an intention to have folks who, you know, kind of amateur folks who want to come and share their talents in a safe space that is not, it's like free of judgment and just a good time. And we feel strongly that the arts are very healing, which is also why we have a commission-free art gallery in our space, right? So we highlight the art of folks who identify as being a part of a marginalized group or a group that is impacted by oppressive forces. We want their art to be highlighted and create space for that where they can just hang it without any fee, right? Actually, shout out to Irina Angelova, who is our art curator, who is actually opening her own gallery right off of Main Street in Middletown. I believe she's gonna have a soft opening in March of 2023. So yay to Irina. But she's connected us with a lot of really great artists and will continue to, spread her spirit throughout Middletown. But she's in alignment with that same philosophy. And through that idea that Crystal and I had, we got to meet Irina, who then connected us with a bunch of other artists who shared similar beliefs and visions. And so the idea of creating community just with we believe just our heart, right, is because I think the Healing Cottage very much is our heart, and like a sort of a dream, that we have that really is continues to become whatever it is, right? When we first opened it, we were think this is what it's going to be, or that's what it's going to be, and so it keeps evolving. So we're like, well, let's have an open mic night. Okay, great. And we had an open mic night, and it was great, and it was a good time, and there were laughs and there were performances, and we want to do another one. Actually, we plan to do another one of just one amazing performer. I don't know what her performer name is, but we're going to call it Jane Unplugged, I think. And that's going to be so great, and then, just continuing to do those types of events. Our resident Reiki practitioner, energy healer, is having his book signing next weekend, which whenever this airs, I don't know when that's going to be, but it's in late January 2023. And that's just a new energy to bring in. And, it just, and the folks who just kind of find us naturally, and the community that we really aim to serve, and not only with clients and practitioners who come for yoga or come for Reiki or come for massage by Bridget, or to bring in some art life with Irina. Folks just keep kind of coming organically, grassroots. It's this evolution. Mm-hmm. And we had an idea, like Jen said, of what we wanted that to be, and that's kind of how this podcast is. Mm-hmm. It's organically unfolding at this present moment. Yeah. It's been something that we've been talking about, again, came up through COVID, and we're finally both in the space to be able to put energy into it. We have the best sound engineer. Shout out to Marcus Williams of Aperture Photography, our resident photographer at the Healing Cottage. Is sponsored by.
Yes, this segment is sponsored by Aperture Photography.
For all your family photo and professional photo and whatever photos you want.
If you are interested in what his photography looks like, or the pictures, his portfolio, every picture on the Healing Cottage, for the most part, was taken by Marcus. And he has his own we did upload his portfolios on his section of the website. So balancemindjourney.com/photography. And you can see all of his amazing photos there, in addition to every photo that we have almost every photo that we have on the website. Correct. Is him. So he's our sound engineer. He's also my partner in life, and I love him. Oh, shout out to Marcus and love. So yeah, this is just an organic evolution of a lot of things, and we're stumbling along trying to figure it out. So to answer the question that was posed, maybe not even at the beginning of this podcast, but that you've been thinking for the past 12 hours, what is Meet Me at the Cottage? How did it come, right? And so you're seeing in real time, and what is that? Mm-hmm. It's Jen and I having these conversations quite regularly. Right. We're both people that don't like small talk, and we relish deep, meaningful conversation and connection. Yes. And it seemed natural for us to have a podcast. First of all, everybody has a podcast these days. Mm-hmm. So why not? Why not? But also, we're both healers, and we are from different backgrounds of healing. Different training. I've not always been a yoga instructor. I have a bachelor's degree in sociology with a social welfare concentration and a minor in women's studies. I have a master's degree in administration of justice. I have other certifications that I've had throughout my professional career, and I've always worked in a capacity with people as a helper or a healer, if you would like to.
Right. But not in a way you would traditionally
not
call
a traditional
that, right?
sense.
But I think it's interesting that you have a master's in administration of justice, which I know means something else, but I think it speaks to like, yes, because that is the intention, is to administer justice, right? That's part of our again, I know it means something different in the way that you were trained, but I think that the terminology is in alignment with what it is we want to do, right? And so even though your journey is, or your traditional education journey wasn't like therapy or nursing or like kind of the tradition, or teacher, like the traditional helpers and healers of our society, or doctor or whatever, it very much still always was
Correct.
A part of you.
Well, at the heart of every person, we just want to be seen, heard,
loved and understood,
and be able to tell our story. So, that's what we're hoping to do. Again, this is a work in progress, as we all are a work in progress, constantly evolving, shedding those layers. We're like a butterfly coming out of the chrysalis.
Or like an onion.
An onion with all the layers. So, this podcast is going to be whatever it ends up being. We have both been asked separately by multiple people, well, what's your podcast going to be about? And we don't know.
Yeah.
Because for both of us, I'll say, we want it to be organic and real and authentic, which is something that we both are very intentional about, wanting to be authentic and real and not be scripted. And this podcast right now is our conversations that we have on a regular basis. So you're just privy to sitting in the room with us. As they say in Hamilton, you're in the room where it happens right now. And it just so happens to be through the cottage. And, so meet me at the cottage can mean whatever you want it to mean as the listener. We invite the community to be a part of our events, to attend my yoga classes that are held weekly and some are held monthly. Come have an energy healing session with one of our Reiki practitioners, a massage by Bridget. Perhaps you peep some art, buy some products in our boutique.
Right. Oh, right.
That is composed of artisanal products by women-owned businesses that are local. We have a free community library that has books for adults and children. Again, everything is intentional in our approach. If you're seeing something in our space or on our website, none of it's by accident. It all has meaning to us. So, the books that we highlight are social justice oriented or from authors from marginalized communities. It's free. We have, if you're old school like us, they have traditional library cards in the back that you can borrow. Again, we just want it to feel cozy. So,
we have a little coffee, tea, snacky bar. Because when folks come to the cottage for whatever, for a yoga class, for a women's healing event,
a mom's group,
because we also have moms groups that are hosted by Nicole Doherty, who is the trainer mommy. She's on Instagram as trainer_mommy, and her website's NicoleDoherty.com. And, she hosts moms groups, some of them free, some of them very, very reasonably priced. And, we got moms and kids hanging out in there. Some are fourth trimester moms, which means they're in their first 3 months after birth, which is a very sensitive and critical time. And that's a space for them to find support. Her other group is for moms of any age, moms of any age and kids of any age. And moms and kids, moms are always welcome. Kids are always welcome. And it's just a space to find community and connection. And so that's why we have little creature comforts, because we want you to know you can hang out. It's not hurry up after you're done your class, get out. That's not what the cottage is about. It's not a traditional yoga studio. It's not a traditional healing space or massage studio.
You're being welcomed into our home, basically.
Yeah.
This place is an extension of our homes and the things that are important to us, and feeling safe and welcomed and comfortable is really what's most important to us. So we're trying to build community, and in essence, we're just building a family, really.
Right. I think that really is it. It's like the village, right? The family, the village. Like that's what we hope to have is our own little, cottage family or cottage village for all types of folks, right? Like I said, we serve all different kinds of folks for all different kinds of reasons. And then, one of our, I think, biggest intentions is creating space so that, we do have this space that's not booked every single hour of every single day. It's not a studio with a lot of hustle and bustle. And the reason it's that way is so that we can offer our space to folks, whether it's Nicole who does moms groups or
you're an organization that wants to rent space.
Right. Especially if you're a nonprofit organization, we have special rates for folks who are, nonprofits or, a small, with the point of having something related to helping the community, right? There's
at a nominal,
right, like a nominal fee, because we want to support that and we want to collaborate and we want to be affiliated, right? Because we don't rent space to just anybody. Folks that, as Crystal said, it's intentional. We want to be in alignment with our values and
our ideologies, and that's true for all of the providers as well. So
right, because we want to make sure that if our mission is social justice, a safe space, that that if you walk in this space, no matter who the provider is, that they are, there's the heater again, that they are in alignment with that as well. And then we hope we're aspiring to be a safe space, right? We can't dictate for you what a safe space is, but we hope that that is something that is true. And that if your organization wants to rent space, or that you want to bring your group to meet, or Crystal offers like private group yoga healing sessions as well. And so that might be, something that you consider with her. But, either way, we want to support those types of things and create that space, because we do have the privilege to have the space. We want to, partner with moms and women-owned businesses and all types of businesses, but particularly those that are in alignment with what we're doing, and create that space for them to utilize for a very low rate, because we don't want to. It's not about profit. It's about community and space,
and reaching a hand back to help others. If you're given this platform or the privilege, how are you enriching others, right, or helping in any little way that you can,
right?
And that's one of the ways that we do that. We also have wellness boxes that we can curate and that are for sale, which 50% of the cost of whatever you pay for the wellness box, 50% of that goes to a charitable organization, which you are aware of it. There will be a card in your box, or if you have a specific request of maybe a group or a topic or what have you that you would like to have your donation go to, that's something that we also do in alignment with, our philosophy of social justice and highlighting those organizations.
That's a great point, because we just had a client purchase a wellness box for her sister for Christmas, and she had asked for, generally speaking, an organization, and through her request, we were able to find the Southern Delaware Alliance for Racial Justice and be able to give half of our proceeds of that wellness box to them, and then put them on the map for us, and then we were able to follow them on social media, and again, that's this community experience. It wasn't something designated by us, but an idea, and then I didn't even know enough about that organization, and then we were able to, and it's just a few dollars, but just the idea of having these wellness boxes, which are comprised of these local artisans and these women-owned businesses and Black-owned businesses, that their products are in these wellness boxes, right? So they're not only highlighting their products and supporting their business, we're also donating half to whatever cause either we've already, identified, or that you're asking for us to, give. And it's just another way. It's just trying to be meaningful and mindful of where money is going, which I think Crystal came up with, purchase with a purpose, right? It's like, what do you get for somebody who maybe you don't know what to give them? Well, a wellness box. And then in that box, they get to try out cool products. And there's a note that indicates like, yes, and half of these proceeds went
if you're already buying a gift. I know for myself personally, I get excited about something that is going to a cause. For example, I spent $11 on a lip balm only because the proceeds to that lip balm were going to organizations to support and provide resources to victims and survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault.
Yeah, right.
If it were any other name brand, chapstick or what have you, I would have thought that was ludicrous. But the fact that I was having this purchase with a purpose, that I was in some way being able to contribute money, which, times are tough for everybody. And how do you find a way to be helpful? And sometimes that's all we can do.
Yeah.
Is knowing that this thing that we would have normally bought anyway,
right?
I'm just choosing a product that chooses to make donations to organizations and causes that I believe in.
Right. And then, since we are small business owners and a women-owned business, and, we want to be, personally connected to the folks who come to the cottage and use cottage services, you can be confident that the proceeds really are going directly to where we're saying. It's right from your purchase right over to that organization. It's just another little thing that we have, and so we invite you to come and check out the cottage. If you haven't, we offer little private tours because we're not some place that stays open and has traditional business hours. So because of that, we want folks to come see it. So come to a class with Crystal, and then check out the stuff. She's a great tour guide. Or, schedule a personal visit, like have you and a friend or you by yourself, just come on by and check it out. We're excited about that, to share with the community what we're doing. And we also love ideas and suggestions. That's exciting for us to hear things that we're not doing, or that maybe we don't see, or that's not on our radar. But as Crystal said, we have been here for 12 hours. So I think we're going to maybe wrap up our first podcast session here, and we're going to end with Crystal just giving us a general rundown of when are you at the cottage, so people can come and take a class with you. P.S. registration on our website, balancemindjourney.com/services. Or you can find Crystal on Instagram at yogawithcrystal0925, and then she has links and all that stuff too, and we're regularly advertising. We're also on Instagram as
Healing Cottage, Delaware?
Is it? I think it's just at Healing. My friends, I believe there's some place where you can put links, and that's
they'll be in our show notes.
Be. Also, it's hilarious. I don't know. I don't know the name. I think it's at Healing Cottage, Delaware. I think it is. She's gonna look it up. But thanks for if you're here still, and if it's not just our family members that are still here.
It is at Healing Cottage, Delaware.
Thank you. I see, that sounds right now that you say it. But tell us when you are there so folks can come see you.
So this is exciting. I'm offering more classes starting this month. So we do have a small space, which we love because it makes it feel cozy, and I'm able to give attention to everybody,
right?
As opposed to if it's a larger class. So I am offering restorative yoga at 6 p.m. on Tuesday and Wednesday evenings. For my early risers, I have a gentle vinyasa class at 6 a.m. on Thursday mornings, prenatal yoga at 4:30 p.m. on Thursdays. Once a month, I offer a women's healing circle on Friday nights from 6:30 to 8:30. January's circle was last night.
Yeah, and then they do fill up quickly, and that's
they
not
do
even
fill up
just
quickly.
A way to hurry up and get you to go sign up. It really is true. Crystal caps it at 6 for that intimate, 6 people for that intimate experience.
For classes for these special events, and then on, again, one Saturday a month. My Saturday classes were today a 6:30 a.m. stretching and meditation, 8:30 a.m. prenatal yoga, 10:30 gentle movement, and a donation-based class one Sunday a month. This month's class was held on January 8th. There are no fixed dates for that, but you can keep an eye on our website and social media for when that will be offered again. So again, that's donation-based. If you're a person who's looking to try yoga or see what this is all about, it's a great opportunity to come out and try something new. You can make a donation. You don't have to. This is a space for you to come and just try something new. Again, we're trying to build community and expose people to different ways of doing things, and just trying something new. So I'm there.
And you can schedule one-on-ones, or even, Crystal offers small, very small private sessions, like one-on-one, or you and a friend, you and 2 friends, or you and a small group, right? So that it can be tailored to what you want. And that's, you schedule with Crystal by appointment. That's another really great way to experience very just Crystal really just takes care of you during your yoga session. And I always say it's the experience you didn't know you needed, because it is a little bit hard to describe until you experience it. And then you just want to many folks just want to tell everyone and bring their friends. And that's how the the Women's Circle got filled so quickly, is that, we had our regulars and then a girl who brought her friend, and, and then before you knew it, it was full.
Yes. So that's when I'm there. We'll have all of our socials and contact information in our show notes.
And, our other providers, they are, independent providers that run their own, small businesses. So we have Chris Brew. Nope, sorry, that's how I say it in my head. It's Bro. Yeah, it's actually Bro. It's French. It's Breaux. And then Farah Bro, also Breaux. Bridget Miller and Irina Angelova.
And Marcus
Williams are the photographer, right? And then Crystal Dalton, the yoga instructor as well. So, check out our website, balancemindjourney.com. Why is it balancemindjourney.com and not the Healing Cottage? Go see, and you'll see why. But the Healing Cottage is one facet of balancemindjourney.com. So check it out, and you can stay current with everything that we're doing. And and keep an eye out for Crystal's gonna be running a promo code soon for some classes and private sessions. So another way to give her a try, or to just save a couple bucks and come experience the awesomeness of Crystal. As soon as we have that promo code, we'll get that out too.
Yep. So stay tuned for future episodes of Meet Me at the Cottage. What are they going to be about? TBD. We might have special guests.
Yeah,
we're open to suggestions. If there is a topic or a person that you would like to see on our podcast, we're open to hearing that. This is a community endeavor, so we want to make the listeners and our cottage community part of this. So thank you for tuning in and spending your day with us.
Yep, and we want to leave you with 3 folks that you can find on Instagram that we follow, that we have, that we feel are in alignment with what we do, and also what we believe in, and that we think are just awesome, right? So there's Susanna Bargataki. and I'm sorry if I am butchering that. But you can find her on Instagram, and she is a great resource for yoga and its original intent.
Zabi Yamasaki, who is on social as Transcending Trauma Through Yoga.
And Marvin Tolliver, who is _LCSW. He is a Black queer licensed clinical social worker who has a lot of great things to say about the field.
Yeah, so we're all about disruption of our ideologies and our indoctrination of the way things have always been. So what does that mean? Tune in for our next episode of Meet Me at the Cottage.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you.
It's over.
Marcus is like, thank Christ, I've gotten 5 years older. Hear these dumb white women talk. Okay. I'm sweating.
It got hotter.
I'm like
here.
a Philly hoagie shop over here.
What did it sound like?
I'm scared.
I know. It's gonna be good.